let's talk about the RYSE Creative Village, right? So 40,000 square feet, right? You bought the school, the Preston Arkwright School. You bought that old school building, and now you're building RYSE Creative Village, which is a dynamic tech-enabled content production studio and a development incubator specifically designed for creative professionals in Georgia's film, entertainment, gaming, and digital media industry. All right. So again, I'm going to repeat 40,000 square feet of property. All right. How did you do this? One, two.
I still am trying to figure this stuff
because
out,
from what I pulled up and I looked into, you were gung ho on a 6,000 square foot property before, and then you end up getting the 40,000 square foot property for like half the price. Yeah, tell us all about that, man.
Oh man, so man, I tell you, this is so we moved the company here 2015, like I said. Spent some time trying to figure out the market, right? And so then we started working with companies like Georgia Power, and we were doing, the marketing side of what we do. Now keep in mind, I don't have the same relationships or the same brand that I had in Orlando, right? So I got to do brand building, here as well. And it's a much bigger market. But, so I led with the magazine because I'm like, okay, well, we have this magazine. And with this magazine, we know that, Black folks don't get enough recognition, right? So we can leverage the magazine and the power of recognition of a magazine to get our foot in the door and begin to build some relationships here, which is what we did. And then, so we wind up building relationships because I tell you, man, when you publish a magazine and you're able to show it to people and it's tangible and you can, have it in your hand and, people begin to take notice of you real quick, right? Because, they're like, hey, hey, what do you, because they want some recognition. Because I'll tell you, man, when you become successful and you start making money, man, making money is good. But the one thing especially Black folks lack and they love is recognition. Right. Recognition that what I am doing, I am successful at, or I'm at the top of my game, or I even aspire to be successful. And so recognize me, right? They want that recognition or lack that. And so, that made me, allowed me to build a little bit of a network, relatively quick moving into the city because everybody's like, okay, well, this guy publishes a magazine. We want to be featured in it. And so that allowed me to then begin, and also leverage some of my relationships from Florida, with companies like BB&T Bank and things like that. And so as we're now hiring, freelancers because we're creating content and doing all of these various different marketing things, one of the things that I was really enamored with and really intrigued about when I moved to Atlanta was how much money was being generated from the production industry. Production industry was, I don't know if you know, but man, this is, Georgia's runs neck and neck between 2 and 3 in terms of the top production markets, right? You got LA, you got New York, and then you have Georgia, and it's because of those tax incentives and things like that. And so everything films here, Marvel, all of those, these big, huge movies film here. Right. And one thing I've learned, because, in Orlando, I told you tourism and healthcare are the, number one industries in Orlando. And so the government, does a lot of things to incentivize those industries. And so I've seen the power of a government really, doing things to drive industry. And so when I saw in the state of Georgia, tax incentives and things like that, I'm like, man, this is the government, the state is really behind this. And so I'm like, that's the industry that you want to try to, get a piece of, right? Because the government wants it to be successful. It spurs economic development and job creation. And so, I was intrigued by that. And so as I'm hiring these freelancers, I'm like, I know you all are getting connected to all of these opportunities that are taking place here, man, all this production. And the more and more I spoke with creatives, they said, well, we don't even know how to get connected to the opportunities. What I learned about the creatives is something that I also learned about the people that were in the hair industry, right? Very talented, right? Got a lot of talents, skills, right? But don't always understand the business side, right? The business acumen of things, right? And so they were like, man, we don't even know. And so I realized, I'm like, they have the talent. And especially when you talk about creatives of color, right? Don't always understand how to articulate their value proposition, don't have the proper network connections to get into opportunities. And so I said, man, if we could build out an ecosystem, and let me back up. When I first moved to Atlanta, there was a space I used to go to called Atlanta Tech Village. And this is when I was trying to build my network. Atlanta Tech Village was this, big facility. They had co-working space. They had offices. They would have programming. They would have networking events. It was like this big ecosystem for people in the tech industry. And I would go there because they would have a number of networking events and classes. I'm going to tell you, I'm always liking, I always like to learn. And they targeted the tech industry. So if you were trying to break into the tech industry, whether you want to get a job with Google or whether you want to, start your own tech company, you wanted to work out of Atlanta Tech Village. And so I said, man, if we could take that model, what they've done over there, that they've proven concept, and apply it to the creative industry, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry in the state of Georgia, if we can take that same model, co-working, office, studio spaces, programming, training, all of that, and build out our own ecosystem, then we got something that could be significantly successful. And so that was where now the entrepreneurial seed planted, here's a problem that exists, and let's create a solution to that problem, right? Let's create a solution. And so that is where the whole concept and the idea came from.